Hey everyone, this is D&D Lounge with my first episode of How to Use D&D Spells, a series where I cover spells from the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. I look at some of the spell's most common uses, answer a few rules questions, and give my opinion on how good a spell is and who it's for. Today I'm covering Charm Person, the spell that gets around the pesky need to build relationships and trust over time. Here's the spell's description and the classes who can cast it. Basically, it forces a wisdom saving throw, and if the target fails, charms the person and causes them to regard you as a friendly acquaintance. The creature has advantage on their save if you or your allies are fighting it, and the effect ends early if you or your allies attack it. The creature knows it was charmed by you after the spell's effects wear off, but how they react is up to the DM. Finally, you can upcast Charm Person to target additional creatures who are within 30 feet of each other. For reference, here's what the charm condition does. It boils down to the charmer having advantage on social ability checks and being unable to be attacked by the charmed creature. Now that we know the spell works, what are some good ways to use Charm Person? Tip number 1 is to alter your appearance before casting it. This is important because Charm Person's target blames whoever they perceived the caster to be at the time they were charmed. In other words, casting Disguise Self or just using a disguise kit before using Charm Person is a good way to get around one of the spell's major downsides, the potential post-charm repercussions. Use number 2, and one of the most common uses of the spell, is to get information. Charm Person is made for situations where you need information from someone who has no reason to talk to you. Just remember that friendly acquaintances don't divulge their boss's master plans, so keep your expectations in check. Regardless, having advantage on social ability checks will make it easier to steer the conversation where you want it. The only downside to this tactic is that the creature will know it was charmed afterward, so if you suspect that they're going to go straight to their boss to divulge their mistake, it's probably best to keep their lips sealed. With murder. Use number 3 is to bargain better. If you're drafting a contract with a merchant, negotiating a political settlement, or haggling for a new sword after an ooze melted your last one, Charm Person is a good way to kick off the conversation. With advantage on your social ability checks, you are more likely to get a favorable deal no matter the situation. The next use of Charm Person is to gain a pre-combat advantage. Charm Person doesn't have much combat utility, but it's not nothing. For starters, a charmed creature can't attack the creature who charmed them. And if you're entering an area for the first time, charming a group scout or a local denizen might help unlock important information, like how best to approach an enemy encampment or avoid nearby predators. And my last tip is to use Charm Person to skip encounters. This tactic might not always work, but there are some occasions where you'll be able to charm your way out of a combat situation entirely. With your social interaction advantage, you might be able to persuade, deceive, or intimidate an enemy into deciding that it's not worth attacking your party. If you learn a little bit about the situation and play your cards right, you might even be able to convince enemies to become short-term allies. Now that we know how Charm Person works, let's quickly cover a few common rules questions. Rule number 1 is that it only works on humanoids, orcs, goblins, bugbears, bipedal creatures that have culture and stuff. Check the creature's stat block if you're unsure. The word humanoid will be right under their name. Rule number 2 is if your target passes its save, it doesn't realize that you tried to charm it. However, the verbal and somatic components of the spell will still be apparent. If the DM is using Xanathar's rules for identifying spells, a creature will have to make a DC 16 Arcana check to recognize that you cast this spell. Rule number 3 is that doing anything harmful to the target breaks the effect. If you or your allies harm the target in any way, Charm Person ends early. This is not just damage, but anything harmful like shoving, grappling, debuffing, insulting their artistic ability, etc., etc. Rule number 4 is that the charm condition only protects the caster from being attacked. The rest of their party is still free game. And rule number 5 is that you can't compel comprehensive or truthful answers with Charm Person. Regarding you as a friendly acquaintance doesn't automatically make the creature open up about their deepest secrets or their boss's plans. That being said, most DMs won't purposefully mislead you when you spent a spell slot on an RP encounter. Just don't expect too much. Alright, we know how to use Charm Person and we know its rules, but let's get after what really matters. Is Charm Person a good spell? Is it worth your first level spell slot? The answer is it depends. Like many enchantment and illusion spells, the power of Charm Person is kind of up to your DM and how they run NPC reactions to being charmed. If targets are frequently upset by the caster's use of an enchantment spell, Charm Person becomes considerably worse. But even the worst repercussions can be worth it if your DM also provides valuable information thanks to the creature being charmed. Overall, if your campaign features a lot of opportunities for you to shine as your party's face, then Charm Person will come in handy quite often. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this guide on Charm Person helpful. If you have any stories about using Charm Person in your own Dungeons & Dragons game, please share them in the comments below. This is D&D Lounge wishing you the best of luck in your next spellcasting venture.